All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the 264th episode of the Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today, we're going to preview the 5th annual Great Atlanta Bash. We got Maynard Jackson head coach Eric Williams on, and then Douglas head coach Stanley Pritchett coming on after that. It looks like we have Coach Williams ready to go, though, so we'll go ahead and get started. Coach Williams, thanks so much for coming on. How's it going?
Hey, I'm great. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Doing well. So we are definitely looking forward to tomorrow's Great Atlanta Bash, tonight's kickoff game with Carver and Calhoun. I know it's going to be really hot this weekend. You'll be in that morning slot. Just what are you looking forward to? Walk us through just the daily schedule of waking up and kicking off an early Saturday game.
Well, tomorrow our schedule is set for our guys to all start arriving probably at about 7 a.m. They'll probably trickle in between 7 and 7:45, and we plan on getting on the buses and getting over there to Henderson Stadium by 8:30.
Yep, and you're going to be playing a Miller Grove team that you are familiar with. You guys have squared off in recent seasons. They had a matchup against Tucker, who looked really good. I don't know what you took away from that matchup, but what is it about playing Miller Grove these last few years that you've seen?
Well, Miller Grove they're a tough physical team, and I know they have an outstanding running back that they have, who was a senior this year, and we're a pretty young team on defense. We have 9 new starters on our defense, and so it's going to be a big task for us tomorrow.
Yep, and it looks like in your opener, Arabia Mountain, they were able to build that lead. So your defense had to have been key in allowing you guys to have that late comeback and make some key stops. So what did you see from your defense in that first game?
All right. Well, like I said, we have a bunch of young, resilient kids, and that's the joy of coaching a lot of freshmen and sophomores. A lot of them don't know when to be scared or when to tense up. They're trying to impress, the coaches, and so they're going out there flying around having a good time. The touchdown that Arabia scored on us in the first half was a touchdown where the quarterback broke contain and threw the ball up to the back of the end zone. Kid made a heck of a catch. And then the only other touchdown they scored was on the kickoff return. And so we just were fortunate enough to go down and score our 2 touchdowns and also go for 2. And that's why we ended up winning the game by a 16-15 score.
Yeah, so I guess the kickoff, and then that play. Other than that, you guys did a really good job of limiting the expected.
Yes, sir.
Play.
Yeah, we've been stout on defense, and we also played good defense against Midtown in the opening scrimmage. We held them scoreless, and yes, sir. So we, the kids are playing with a lot of confidence. We just got to make sure we get our run to shut this guy down tomorrow, because he's, like I said, once again, he's a pretty good talent.
Yep, and then what about the physicality? You talked about Miller Grove's going to be able to run the ball. You noticed just playing them the last few years, they're a physical team. What did you see just physically from your group in the scrimmage and then this last week?
Well, in the scrimmage, I think we set the tone in the scrimmage. Our young guys, like I said, they're trying to impress us, so they were chopping at the bit, and we flew around pretty good in that Midtown game. And then last week, Arabia Mountain is a senior-laden team. They have like 20 seniors, and 4 or 5 of the guys already have offers, so they were a lot bigger than us, and our kids had to match that physicality, and I think we did a great job of doing that and holding our own.
Yep, and so your players of the game, it looks like that first week, Rashad Harp, Kenyon Gilliam, Jacob Jackson, Cameron Moore, Messiah Scandrett. They obviously had the big performances. Yeah. Is that who you're expecting just to continue to lead, or were any of those kind of a breakout performance?
Well, the breakout pretty much is Jacob Jackson, because he's a true freshman. So, he had a pick 6 in the opening, in the Midtown scrimmage, and last week he had an interception that he almost returned for a touchdown. We didn't get any points out of it, but he kind of set the tone defensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he also scored both of the 2-point conversions. So he's a star on the rise right now as a freshman, and he stands at about 5'11", 190. So he's a big freshman, but he has a high football IQ.
Certainly, and yeah, so that's two big performances in a row from your freshman, Jacob Jackson. You mentioned he's playing both sides of the ball. Is that something you've had in your tenure at Maynard Jackson, and got a freshman that can come in and play both sides of the ball, or is he just kind of physically mature for that age and just the high ceiling's unbelievable?
Well, over here, we have a lot of kids in our area that play a lot of flag football. So, Craig, they don't really play tackle football until they get here. So they have to get used to getting hit. And so, but the kids who've been playing a lot of recreation football and tackle football, they're further along from a confidence standpoint, I should say. And when we get a kid who has exceptional talent like Jacob, they stand out and above. So we have a lot of kids that probably play 4 years of varsity football over here, but his football IQ, like I said, is off the charts. He's a starting safety for us, and he rotates in with Kenyon Gillum at the running back position. He's our bigger back when Kenyon is our lower, more compact back who move the chains for us.
Yep, and so you mentioned he's able to come in, share carries with Gilliam. You got some balance offensively, so what can we expect just from that offensive versatility, being able to just pass, run the ball, bring in him for the physical carries, and just overall offensively?
Oh, yeah, well, offensively, that's where most of our experience lies on this year's team. Like we have quarterback Rashard Harp returning for his senior year. We have Ricky Dorn, who is our most decorated student athlete as far as offers. He has like 4 to 5 offers. He's a 6'3", 195-pound junior receiver. But early on, now that he has that attention on him, a lot of defenses have been like bracketing him, trying to take him away. So Kenyon has really been stepping up on the offense. Our offensive line, well, let's say the right side of our offensive line is our strength, with big Ryan Alford and Chance Cunningham. So although most of the guys started last year, those guys have been really starting for us since their 9th grade year.
Yep, and then another player, is it Hassan Hall? His nickname is Flash.
Yeah, Hassan Hall graduated a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He plays for the Cleveland Browns now.
That's right. Okay, yeah, I was looking at he was at Georgia Tech. I didn't know if that was the 7-on-7. So
right.
Yeah, that was his pro day.
That was his pro day at Georgia Tech. Yeah, and we gave him the nickname of Flash because he ran a 4.35 when he was here, and I think at his pro day he ran a 4.39.
All right, we'll certainly bring that up at the broadcast. So when was the last time you got to see him and just kind of get updated on where he's at career-wise?
Well, he came by and spoke to the guys shortly before he went off to camp. So, we're really pulling for him and hoping that he makes it as the Cleveland Browns return guy on the 53-man roster next week. But he was another guy that came to us, with good talent. He was a track guy, and then we had him out there playing for us, and his speed was amazing. But then, believe it or not, his senior year he primarily played safety because we had a lot of depth at the running back position. And my thought process as a coach is you got to stop people to win. If they don't score, you can't lose. So we kind of like put our best players on defense over here, and then we kind of like make it do what we can accomplish on offense with kids who are next in line as far as from a talent level.
And then I want to talk a little bit about Ricky Dorn. He's a junior, great size at the receiver position. You mentioned a lot of the offers he's had. So you have a ton of underclassmen that are coming into the spotlight this season. They're in that pivotal part of their varsity career where they can start picking up the attention, really honing in on their craft. So how big of an opportunity do you see for these underclassmen that are going to be leading you guys this year, just for them to obviously play great for Maynard Jackson, but also put themselves in a position to really make it big on the next level?
Well, the kids that really have the size to make it big on the next level, like I said, is Ricky Dorn. Then we have a kid by the name of Zion Lawson who has great size. He's kind of overcoming some family issues, but now he's in a much better family situation and stable environment. So we're expecting great things from him. He's a potential Power 5 candidate. And then we also have, like I said, Jacob Jackson as a freshman who has the measurables that are required on that Power 5 level.
And then another guy that seems to have great size, is that Cameron Moore, plays fullback for you guys?
Yes. Cameron Moore is our D-line. He has offers from Alabama State. He's a senior. He kind of like tweaked his knee last week, so we don't know if he'll be available this week, but he is the anchor of our defensive line. He's one of the 2 starters that returned from our team from last year's defense that lost 9 starters.
Yep, 6'3", 230. So, yeah, last question, just talk about what you guys learned from last year, having some big victories in the region, making it to the playoffs, and then just what you kind of see this group's mindset is, just what they want to accomplish, obviously in these big non-region games, but just once you guys get to that tough region.
Well, last year, of course, we're building off the success of having a 7-4 record. But like I said, that was a senior-led team. Those guys had been in the program. And normally I would schedule tough games, like we would play up and go down and kind of get play teams like a Lee County or Valdosta team that I call them money games, because instead of them coming up here, they would buy us out and we would go down there 2 consecutive years just for our kids to get outside of 285 to see to get an opportunity to see the true Friday Night Lights experience where the whole town shuts down, to kind of like motivate them into having those aspirations of playing on the next level. But this past cycle, we kind of played teams where, let's see, we got a 50-50 chance of winning. We're teams that are kind of like on our level. And so we had great success with that last year, and we're off to a good start this year. So tomorrow morning's game is going to be pivotal as a stepping stone into our success this season.
Absolutely. Well, we cannot wait to see you guys tomorrow. Get some rest tonight. We'll see you bright and early. Coach Williams, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you all for having me. Have a great evening.
All right. So there goes Coach Williams and Maynard Jackson. They will be playing Miller Grove coming up. He mentioned Miller Grove has a great rushing attack. We'll see if who was he talking about? That was Cameron Moore, an anchor of that defensive line, one of 2 returning starters. We'll see if he's able to go with that tweaked knee, but I think it's going to be a great matchup and opportunity for them to prepare for the region. And then for Miller Grove, which we'll obviously be diving into that before kickoff with our pregame show, is how are they going to respond to that big loss to Tucker week 1? Miller Grove was extremely competitive last year. Every coach that came on that went up against them had nothing but compliments about their athleticism, physicality, but it looks like maybe schematically Tucker was able to hit them in certain areas. They put up a lot of points, so we will see how they respond. I think that'll be a big matchup to kick things off. So before our next guest joins us, let's see, is Coach Pritchett ready to go?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Let's see real quick. He says, I think I'm on, but I don't hear anything.
Did you use the same link?
I actually used the same link. Okay. Let me tell him to try it from his phone real quick. And obviously with Douglas, the story with them is that incredible opening victory they had against Mays, which was absolutely massive. They aren't in the same classification, but you're talking about a big-time historical APS matchup with Mays coming off an outstanding season. They've kind of been the premier team in APS throughout the last decade, and then Douglas, with what they want to accomplish this year, opening up the season with a big win over Mays, that was a huge deal. I bet they were certainly fired up. I saw some of the Mays pep rallies leading up to that. You had administrators, principals, teachers just talking about how much pride was on the line in that, and then Douglas comes out and gets the win. So we will see how they seize that momentum. And they, of course, are going to be playing Booker T. Washington in our nightcap. Hold up one sec, guys. Let me break down that win real quick over Mays. And then Mays is going to be playing Douglas County. That was a explosive matchup last year, but they're going to have to go up against the Douglas County team that is returning all that firepower and more. They have a lot of 2026 guys that are stepping up into the starting role offensively. And then the big key for Douglas County, which Najee and I were talking about yesterday, it's their defense. 100%. We know what Sire Hardaway is going to do offensively. We know they're going to be able to move the ball. Pretty much every game we've watched Sire, it's 3 touchdowns through the air, 4 touchdowns through the air, and then 1 or 2 rushing once they get in the end zone. So big key will be their defense against Mays. But it looks like we have Coach Pritchett ready to go. Coach, thanks so much for coming on. How's it going?
How's it going, guys?
We're doing well. So we were really excited to see you guys in action this week. You guys had quite a statement win to open the season against Mays. I know that was a great APS matchup, a lot of alumni, a lot of friends and foes kind of watching that matchup, seeing how it played out, and that's a big way to start your all season.
Oh yes, it was a big win for our program, not only for the school but for the community, our alumni base. I think it's the first time we have beat Mays in the last 5 times, so we wanted to make it a rivalry again. Like it used to be back in the 80s and 90s. So, we were just glad to come out on top, and have the kind of cap off our off season, that we've been building our young men up.
Yep, and when I look at the stat line, I want you to walk us through the game, but I see things like the penalties. Looks like you guys played a pretty clean game and really seemed to be in mid-season form. Talk a little bit about the leadership and experience of your guys to be able to come out week 1 and execute like that, and then just kind of explain how the game unfolded when you guys pulled away and were able to seal it.
Well, our team is pretty much a junior heavy team. We've taken a lot of lumps my first 2 years. These guys came in with me as 9th graders, so I guess the base of our team is pretty much juniors, and they've been through a lot of battles. Like I say, taking lumps, but we just had an outstanding offseason, and we continue to preach discipline in everything we do, and we want to make sure that we stay clean and penalty free. I think we had a couple of penalties, but it was a pretty clean game. The guys just responded well. We got up early, and then in the second half we had a couple of injuries where the ambulance had to come out and get our young men. I guess the heat, and the guys got tired, but they were able to be resilient and withstand a Mays rally and hold on and close out the game in the end.
Yep, and then the number one thing that stands out offensively is just how many different guys you had getting involved, not just in the passing game, in the rushing game as well. Lots of, several guys taking significant carries. So talk about how that's going to be able to benefit you guys just moving forward. It's almost like that next man up collective, run by committee, pass by committee.
Yeah, that's our whole motto, next man up. We want to make sure we get the ball to our athletes in space, and we have a number of athletes at receiver and running back that we try to get the ball to. They help us make plays. So we're going to continue to try to push the tempo on offense and play at a fast pace and get guys the ball in space.
Yep, and you talked a little bit about the heat this last week. I mean, it's no secret tomorrow, man, that is going to be hot. So it's a good thing it's not the season opener. You guys have had experience like that, but I mean, talk about what kind of test that's going to be for your guys and how important that kind of depth and conditioning is going to be.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a test because it's another neighborhood rivalry for us. Playing Washington is it's called the West Side Classic, so it's going to be a big game for both teams. The heat is going to be a factor. Being able to have depth, having a lot of guys who can touch the ball and not just relying on one or two guys is going to help us out a lot. And we're going to try, like I say, to push the tempo to make Washington have to play, at a fast pace.
Yep, and I can hear some basketballs bouncing. I think you're probably at PE class right now, but when I look at
Yes.
what Douglas did last year, just on the basketball court, just some of the big games the football team has had. I mean, I just get the sense with Douglas, you talked about taking some lumps the last couple of years, but the attitude this season, it seems like you guys are ready to go out there. It doesn't matter who's on the schedule, and just you're confident just in your guys' ability.
Yeah, one thing we've been preaching all summer long, we want to be 1-0 each week. No matter who the opponent is, we're going to make sure we prepare during the practice week, and we want to make sure that we, I don't think we're going to be focused on us being 1-0.
Yep, and one of the guys that obviously you want the ball in his hands, you want him making plays, you want teams testing him. That's Jonte Gilbert. Just talk about what he's done throughout his Douglas career and kind of what you expect from him this junior season.
Oh, man, Jonte is – I always tell people he's the greatest kid I've probably been around. Just a great kid, just off the field. He does everything the right way. But he's also an outstanding athlete. He's really improved since his 9th grade year. He's growing into to a young man that's gonna, I think, could be a tremendous player on the college level. So we try to give him the ball a lot. We want to make sure we give him the ball. We got a 4 or 5 star guy. We want to make sure he's showcased and that we playing at his level.
Yep, he had a tackle for loss in the season opener, some solo tackles, and then looks like you guys are rotating a bunch of guys defensively. What are we going to see just in terms of the other playmakers at the linebacker level and then up front?
Like I said, we got a lot of guys, a lot of depth, a lot of guys playing, linebacker. We got a lot of key skill guys. Jameer Morton, the linebacker, Keontae Langford, outside linebacker, Sharon McKee, that give us depth. And we want to play, up in people's faces, not letting people, not playing soft defense. We want to play hardcore defense and getting after people.
And then you mentioned this is the West Side Classic, the oldest rivalry in APS. Douglas, you guys definitely hold the edge from what I remember. I think it's like 30 and then 9-1. So this would be the 42nd matchup, I think. But what is it about this individual rivalry? What have you seen just the last few editions of this?
Well, last year we came out on top. Like I said, last year we were a very young team, and I think Washington was a very young team as well. So it was a great battle. Always a great battle. My first year, they beat us pretty bad. They had a great team that year, and they got on us pretty bad. But like I say, I know Coach Rivers is going to have those guys ready to compete. They're going to be ready, to come out and have bragging rights, just like in the Mays rivalry. So, this is, like I said, we opened the season up with 2 rivalry games, and our guys got to be ready to play.
And then I want you to just talk a little bit about your quarterback, John Wilson, what you saw from him in that last matchup against Mays, the sophomore for you guys.
Oh, yeah, John, he had a tremendous offseason. He played a lot as a freshman last year, so he got a lot of experience at the end of the season last year, and so we were looking for big things from him. Last week he had over 200 yards passing. I thought he was a real force in the game plan. He used his feet when he needed, and as long as he don't turn the ball over, I think good things are gonna happen for that young man.
And then it's no secret you guys are going to be in a stacked region. You have the opportunity to make the playoffs, but you're going to be playing against, teams that have been, whether it's Carver, Sandy Creek, or Cedar Grove, that are also going to be battle tested. But talk about playing them last season, getting that experience, and then where you think the team's at, just knowing kind of what you guys learned from last year's matchup, and then how your guys are excited this year to compete in that region.
Well, I always tell everyone we're playing in the toughest region in the state. You look at it, all the other 3 teams in the region have at least played in the state championship game the last 2 years. So our motto is, why not us? So it's our turn to be the 4th team in the region to make a deep playoff run. So like I say, we've taken our lumps. We've gotten older, we've gotten bigger, we've gotten stronger. So we want to, like I said, we just want to take it 1 week at a time. But we're ready for the test of our region, and we just look forward to keep getting better each week.
Yeah, not only are those teams playing in the state championship, they're playing each other. So, yeah, that region is just
right.
pretty unbelievable,
Yes.
And they've
Yes.
got some big matchups. So I know because it's only a 4-team region, these non-region games, you are going to have a bunch of them. So what is just the overall goal for your guys, just getting through this non-region schedule, trying to stay healthy, and just building that depth and trying to hit that form at the right time?
Yeah, we just want to make sure guys stay healthy. We want to make sure we build our confidence. You build confidence with wins, making sure the guys are focused. Weekly, and understanding that we're getting ready for the region, and it's the toughest region in the state. So we just want to make sure we go out and we're ready to compete.
And then last question: what can we expect from Anton Watkins? Took a lot of carries last week. Looks like he's a physical junior, running back and linebacker.
Oh yeah, Antoine is going to have a great game. He prepares weekly. Try to get his body ready. He took his ice bath yesterday because he was a little sore from the game Saturday. So he'll be ready to go. He's a tough physical runner. We're gonna try to showcase him a lot tomorrow.
You bet. All right, Coach Pritchett, thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. So there goes Douglas. Yeah, Antoine Walker, he took the bulk of the carries in that Mays game, ended up having 14 carries for 64 yards and both of their touchdowns on the ground. They did have, looks like 6 other guys, including obviously the quarterback, John Wilson, took some carries. John Wilson, 6 for 12 yards. But yeah, Mays probably had a size advantage. They are a big-time 5A school. Douglas is down in 3A. And so we know those were hard-earned runs by Watkins. And then got to be impressed with the passing by John Wilson, the sophomore quarterback, who he said played last year as a freshman, 20 of 32 for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. A great performance. So that will be interesting to see how Booker T. Washington is able to stack up against Douglas. Defensively, Jonte Gilbert in that secondary at that safety position, one of the best in the entire country. This, I believe, is his 3rd year starting. We saw him at Media Day. He is very impressive. He was committed to Ohio State, but I think he recently opened up his recruiting again. So definitely an interesting prospect and one of the biggest names that will be in this year's event. So let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break and thank our sponsor, NFHS, and we'll be back on the other side. All right, welcome back. So we jumped right into those interviews. So let's go ahead and just talk about the Great Atlanta Bash schedule. So it'll start tonight at 8 o'clock, Calhoun against Carver, Atlanta. It'll be on Peachtree TV. You can watch it the exact same way you tuned into the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, and then we'll have the top games around the state on the scoreboard ticking across the bottom throughout the night. We'll also have our score week 2 roundups posted at scoreatl.com, so be sure to check that out. You can go to scoreatl.com and we have our scoreboard link right at the top of the page. We also have an app, but it's also a quick way if you're interested in not a particular team but just kind of scanning the results. That is the most efficient way, in my opinion. You can just click on it. We'll have live updates throughout the night. So what happened last night around the state? Let's check it out right now. We had some matchups. I think there were 6 of them. So we had Milton falling to Western Florida. I wouldn't push the panic button too much. Milton was 0-2 last year before the big Roswell matchup. Haven't really looked at the stat line, but with that result, I think my concern with Milton right now, it looks like they have had some depth issue at the running back position. So that was the case again last night. They're stacked at the receiver position. Luke Nickel is incredible. Have we seen a lot from Ryan G, the tight end?
Impressed a lot of people.
Okay, so he didn't really have too much of an impact week 1. Coach Reeves said to watch out for him. I think he only had 2 touchdowns last year, but he's going to play a much bigger role in the offense. But here's the thing. If you're struggling so much running the ball, you can't really have the luxury to try to get everything going. You're just trying to maintain a drive and not leave yourself in a bad position on third downs. And so, yeah, judging by that, they lose 14-10. I think clearly that's going to be the area they're going to have to really work on, because you go up against some of these big fronts in 6A coming up with the Roswell game, and then obviously 7A. You got to be able to run the ball and find that offensive balance, which is very interesting because you look at the history of Milton. I mean, you could have argued they were running back I'd say before like 2 or 3 seasons ago. They just every year they'd have 2,000-yard rushers, but then Coach Reeves took over, and really it was more the skill positions, the passing game, and then with Luke Nickel at quarterback, they're so potent passing the ball. So they got to find that balance, and then defensively, I like them on every phase.
They're impressive defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 points, 6 turnovers in week 1,
Yeah.
13 points. So I think the offense now needs to match the defense.
Yep. So, yeah, as Najee mentioned, 2 good defensive performances in a row. They forced 6 turnovers against Collins Hill, still hold them. What was that final? That was 24-13? 27-13, and then 14-10 last night. So I'll pull up some stats, but I want to look at some of the other results real quick. So then Cedar Grove also lost a very close game. That was 50-42. Coconut Creek's good, but I think what's interesting and what Najee pointed out too, it's like you look at their opener against Dutchtown and then this game, Cedar Grove is usually not giving up that many points. And so, yeah, that's a little uncharacteristic. I mean, yeah, they'll get in some shootouts with when they're playing teams like Mill Creek and Buford and all that, but 50-42, that's a lot of points. So credit to Coconut Creek, but I expect that Cedar Grove defense to start making adjustments. A lot of that, you're giving up 50 points. There's obviously some miscues spread within that result that they're going to want to clean up before they get into the region, but plenty of time to go. And offensively, it looks like Colson is doing his thing. All right, Savannah Country Day had a big win, 52-0. There were some other Savannah area games. Savannah Christian, 56-14 win over Class 4A Islands. Savannah Christian is looking outstanding. They're ranked pretty high in Class 3A.
That freshman impressed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Damian Dighton.
Yeah, so they have one of the best freshmen. You said Damian Dighton?
LaDamian Dighton.
Ladanium. So, yeah, 56-14. And then Howard had another big win. They're 2-0 in Class 4A. They've definitely been on the rise. 56-0 over Central Macon. I think they beat Southwest last week. Columbus, Class 2A team, had a big win over Jordan, 55-20. And then Midtown High School, 24-15 over Best Academy. That is the Gray Knights. They didn't even have a football season 2 years ago. They had no roster numbers, had to just shut down the whole season, bring in a new coaching staff, get the program going. Last year they made some strides, and then I think they have an opportunity with this schedule. It's not going to be a region schedule, but pick up some games, and then they will be back full swing next season. They had a great spring across the board athletically, so that's a big victory for them. I know a team like that that's trying to get back on the right track, that is always exciting when you haven't really had wins in a few years. To get a big victory early on in the season, it goes a long way. So I'm going to go over my top 30 matchups that we're going to be updating tonight during our Calhoun-Carver game. Before we do that, I think the key in that game 100% is going to be, can Calhoun's offensive line win the battle against Carver Atlanta's defense? Against BT, which that's probably one of their strengths, is defensively along that line. The big performance by the freshmen, just disrupting them. And then Calhoun, we know they have Caden Williams, one of the more highly recruited running backs in the state this year. They need to get him going, and they need that rushing attack. They can still throw the ball extremely well. They've had that spread offense going for a long time. That's always efficient, but they've got to be able to run the ball. And Carver Atlanta produced, I think it was 14 tackles for loss week one. It was either 14 or 17. They had about 7 sacks. One player alone had 5 sacks. So, yeah, they're going to have to win that up front on the offensive line. If Carver's able to get back there and force them into third longs, they can't move the chains efficiently. That's going to be tough, and we know how good Carver is, how tough their football team is. No one is sleeping on them. As Coach Miles says, it's been so difficult for them to even schedule contests in the past, because really, what are you going to get out of playing Carver? I mean, some programs like Calhoun, they know they're going to need these tough matchups to prepare. They don't shy away from opponents, but play a team like Carver, it's 3A. They're absolutely loaded. They're physical. Might take you a couple weeks to recover from that matchup, and then if you end up losing the game, it looks really bad for you, just because they're a 3A school and not because they haven't been exceptional. And as both coaches mentioned, they were playing back-to-back in the state championships just 2 years ago. They both ended up falling up short. I think that was Calhoun fell to Warner Robins, and then Carver fell to Cedar Grove in a rematch. So they've been knocking on the door, and I think it'll be a great matchup. And then, yeah, on the flip side, can Carver Atlanta's defensive front win the battle? We've seen a lot of games come down to that. Last year, Benedictine against Cedar Town, they would not have won that game if they didn't win it on the defensive line. Saw the big play in the Mill Creek Parkview game that really led to the 28-0 run. That big stop on 4th and 1 from the goal line before the half. It's key plays like that where you win that battle. That is going to be a big deal. So, all right, my other top 30 games. Let's go right now. All right, Archer at North Gwinnett. I think that will be a very intriguing one. North Gwinnett lost to Mill Creek. Archer had the big win week 1 over North Forsyth. We saw how good their skill players were. William Wallace, Jonathan Stafford. We saw some guys on their defense playing their first varsity starts. coming up and making big plays, but North Gwinnett, they're going to be a tough matchup, and Archer is definitely trying to just build off of last year, the 2-8 season, while North Gwinnett, they're going to want to find that win column for the first time under head coach Eric Godfrey. The next matchup, Bainbridge at Coffee. Number 4 in 4A Bainbridge, number 4 in 5A Coffee. I'm going to pick Bainbridge in this one. I think they are probably a dark horse to win 4A this year. They've had an incredible start. Every single non-region game they're going to play is against a ranked team. Let me just pull up their schedule real quick because it is very impressive. And even when Bainbridge won it all a few years ago, they dropped some non-region games. I think they might have even been like 1-4 at one point playing outside the class. And then once the playoffs came, they were just battle tested. So they had a 55-3 win over ELCA week 1. ELCA is now going to have to play Blessed Trinity. So I think that will give us a good idea of how good is BT, how good is Bainbridge, how good is ELCA. Just a really lopsided loss last week to Bainbridge, and now they go up against BT. So Bainbridge won that one, and then after this they have Thomas County Central, Thomasville, Ware County, and then Brooks County. So huge matchups, and I know Brooks County has a big matchup tonight also. Against Wayne County. Brooks County actually won that game last year, and then Wayne County had a tremendous season, and they're off to a great start this year where Brooks County, they're coming off a 42-20 loss to Thomasville week 1. So let's continue these top games. Brooks County at Wayne County. We'll be providing updates of that one. Brookwood at Walton. Another cool matchup to tune into. You got Brookwood coming off their big win over McEachern. Now they're going to play a juggernaut. Walton won that matchup last year. We know Brookwood's going to want to run the ball. Can Walton's defense make them one-dimensional, force them to pass, or will that old-school Brookwood football establish that ground game and keep the ball out of the hands of Jeremy Heklinski and that Walton offense? That is going to be the key, and we will have those updates. Brunswick at Camden County, a great matchup right there. Brunswick has been extremely impressive. I think they had an undefeated regular season last year. Camden County in that Region 1 and 7A. A lot of people think they might be a top 10 team this year in 7A. And so they're going to have to win this matchup to earn that consideration. But I think that will be a great, evenly matched showdown right there. Buford at Mallard Creek. Definitely want to see that after Buford got the shutout last week. Is their defense going to be able to do that again? And then offensively, can they put up more than 14 points? All right, Cass at Rockmart. Rockmart won that matchup last year. They're a 2A team, very explosive. They averaged about 50 points per game last year. They lost a very close one to Cedar Town in the opener, and then Cass, we know they are coming off that 34-0 loss to Rome. So they're going to want to get back on track. Can the playmakers get them going? Can Cass do better on third down? Will they protect the football? And don't sleep on Rockmart, though. It's the game is at the Yellow Jackets. Speaking of Rockmart and Cedartown, you got Cedartown at Callaway. That has been a great matchup the last few seasons. Callaway won a state title, I think, 3 years ago. They're extremely tough. The Cavs always play everyone very close. And then Cedartown, obviously a finalist last year, looking to get back to the state title in 4A. All right, the ELCA BT game. Let's see how that one plays out. Let's see if BT can continue building momentum after scoring the big win over Calhoun week 1. You got Fellowship Christian and Trinity Christian. I'm interested in that one because we saw how good Fellowship was against Pisgah in their opener, and then Trinity Christian had a tough loss last week, but that was to Woodward Academy. So now that I'm going to see Trinity Christian going up against Fellowship, that will show me, A, how good Fellowship is, B, how good Trinity Christian is, and C, how good Woodward Academy is. All right, Gainesville at Mountain View. Gainesville had a very hard-earned win over Marist last week. Mountain View is a big 7A team. I think that will be a good matchup for them. We'll see if that Gainesville defense can continue growing. We know offensively with Gavin Hall, they're going to be able to get those points on the board, and Baxter right at quarterback. Greater Atlanta Christian at Lovett. Lovett got absolutely steamrolled against Westminster week 1. Greater Atlanta Christian steamrolled Meadow Creek. So you have one team coming off a massive win, one team coming off a big loss to a rivalry, and we'll see how GAC comes out. They had a tough few seasons. I mean, they were a really strong powerhouse. They got classed up, struggled a little bit the last 2 years, but I think in that region this year they have a chance. And a win over Lovett, a good football team, a rival, that'll be a big deal. All right, Harrison at South Forsyth. Harrison was the surprise team that earned their playoff spot last year with some really big victories. I think they had the McEachern win and maybe another one, whether it was, I think it might have been either North Paulding or maybe even Marietta. They're going to play South Forsyth, who narrowly lost last week, but in that South Forsyth game, their kicker hit a 57-yarder and a 60-yarder, so that game might come down to special teams. All right, you got Hillgrove and Creekview. Creekview looked really impressive week 1 in that win over Cambridge, and then Hillgrove. They obviously are in that same region with Harrison, Marietta, McEachern, so we are looking forward to seeing how they stack up. It's a cross classification. You got Houston County at Perry. That was a 1-point game last year, 57-56. Houston County looks phenomenal so far. Aja Hill was perfect passing the ball week 1, 16-16. Perry has not played a game yet. This will be their opener. We talked to Coach Smith last year. He felt that they were in control of that game the whole time. I think they had a 3-touchdown lead, and he factored in that it was the first game of the season. They kind of let their foot off the gas a bit, and Houston County was able to pull away for the victory. Perry is replacing a lot of guys, though, so I would not be surprised if Houston County gets the best of them again, but should be an interesting matchup. Jonesboro at Cartersville. That one stands out because Cartersville, I think, is emerging as the team to beat in that stacked region with Cass, Calhoun, Dalton, and Hiram. And then Jonesboro, there's a lot of hype around them this year just with their athletes. Some of the really competitive matchups they had in the last few seasons, forgot who they matched up in the playoffs, but they've been holding their own against top competition, and then they're going to be in that same region as Woodward Academy this year, who anyone that is not paying attention to them as a potential state championship team in Class 6A this year needs to, but that'll be a big matchup, and I also just want to see how good Cartersville is going to look against a big athletic team. All right, Kell at Allatoona. So many things to watch in this matchup. Is Peyton Zachary going to play? I think he's probably going to be out another week or two for safety after that big special teams hit. Is Bryce Clavin going to play? Allatoona has a new head coach. What's their offense going to be able to do against that Kell defense? I mean, it's a really interesting matchup. Cobb County showdown right there. Definitely one to watch, and a lot of unknown factors in that game. Also, Kell wasn't able to run the ball at all against Parkview. Was that a credit to Parkview's defense? And will they have to find a way to run the ball if Bryce Clavin's out? I think they will. All right, Lanier at Peachtree Ridge, definitely an intriguing matchup. A big opportunity for both schools, a Gwinnett County cross-classification matchup. Can Lanier beat a great Peachtree Ridge team? I do believe the Lions won that one last year, then had a ton of injuries, but this year they've got a roster with a lot of new pieces. Let's just put it that way. They are not the same team last year. They're going into year 2 with Coach Helmrich, and I think that's going to be a big matchup. It's at home for Peachtree Ridge, and they're coming off a big victory over Seconder week 1. Seconder is a newer program, but I mean Peachtree Ridge in that one looked pretty flawless. So I think they'll be in a tougher battle this week. Can Lanier find a way? And then what's your boy Lanier's receiver that just absolutely Chase Jamison?
And then your boy Dorian Varney just got an offer from Tennessee.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so Lanier has a receiver. I mean, there's a lot of top guys this year. We know about Mike Matthews, Kyle Vaca, a lot of them that we've seen, Jonathan Stafford. But this guy for Lanier, he's putting up massive numbers. Consistently 8 catch, 170, 3 touchdown games. He had 3 touchdowns last week, right? Yeah, I don't know many receivers that put up 3 touchdowns week 1. Yeah, it was 2 or 1, yep. So, yeah, 3 touchdowns in 1 game. Whew. So we'll see how he matches up against that Peachtree Ridge secondary. Big time showdown right there. All right, Lithonia at Rome. Let's see what Rome does week 2 after the big shutout. They've got a huge matchup coming up that we will be at. So, yep, that's going to be the Rome-Carrollton one.
Just preview that real quick. Obviously, Rome will detail next week, but what do you think Rome needs to do to kind of, sort out obviously Juju and just kind of when that's a home game, but obviously we know they can air the ball out and they got some of the weapons that can throw at you.
Yeah, I think with Rome, they had a size advantage against Cass that I don't think they'll have against Carrollton. It will be tough to get to Juju like they were able to in the Cass game, but what was Rome so good at? It's like their defense just played well together, and they didn't flinch on 3rd down. They got even better. So for Carrollton, they're going to have to try to break their spirit, pick up big 3rd downs, sustain drives, and wear them out. And then what Rome was able to do so well was just have these tip balls, the pass breakups at the line of scrimmage, Justin Terrell, number 98. So I'm confident in their tackling ability. They didn't give up a big play at all to Cass, but Caleb Odom, a sophisticated offense, a quarterback that throws extremely well in the run. It's going to be a really good matchup, but I 100% expect Rome's defense to come out and not necessarily not shy away from the moment. I know they've heard, they've seen, they played last year, but I think they're going to come out and try to set the tone, and it'll be another good challenge for Juju against a great defense that plays team defense extremely well. And a lot of those turnovers, it wasn't just one guy making a play. It was, as we said, a tiff pass, the pass rush, rushing a throw, and just making it difficult. So I expect Rome to look good again against Lithonia this week. All right, Madison County at Elbert County. Should be a really good one. Elbert County is finally starting to get put in the rankings. I've tried to tell people they're Class A Division I. They got Shannon Jarvis as head coach, the former Mill Creek coach, and then Madison County is a team that's right on the edge of earning a spot in the 4A ranking, so I almost view that as a top 10 matchup right there. All right, McEachern at Hughes. Definitely interesting matchup. I would love to watch that game and see how it plays out. How's Hughes going to respond after the big win week 1? How dominant are they going to be this year? I think that's a big test right there. And obviously McEachern has an opportunity to, even just like holding serve and going back and forth with Hughes, that's going to be a test just for the rest of the season. Not falling behind, staying within striking distance, not letting Hughes do what they've done to so many teams in the past where they get that 1 touchdown lead and then just pile it on and end up blowing you out. So Hughes, they're going to keep their pedal to the floor. We saw them in a situation we rarely do last week when they were actually behind, and then they just erased the lead, came up with the clutch play. So a really tough matchup, but we will see, especially after McEachern had a game slip away last week where I'm sure they felt throughout it that they were in control and were going to come away with the victory. Brookwood was just able to have some key runs down the stretch, and they got the win. So Meadow Creek at South Gwinnett. Let's see who wins that one. South Gwinnett's coming off a big win. Meadow Creek had that tough loss we mentioned week 1. And those are two teams that I have confidence in the region. I think they can both earn playoff spots and shake up their respective regions, but be a big test for sure. South Gwinnett looked really good in their opener. All right, Norcross at Mill Creek. What's up?
They got some dudes.
South Gwinnett? Yeah.
Matthew Pickford.
Exactly. And then last year, South Gwinnett was 4-0, looking really good. Lost a really close game, I think, and then things kind of fell apart for them. I don't know if it was injuries, probably a lot of different factors, but yeah, I mean, as good as they were last year early on, that's going to be a tough matchup for Meadow Creek. Coach Wofford said Meadow Creek, he really likes their offensive line. They weren't able to run the ball well week 1, though. They had some good plays in the passing game. We liked what they did in our 7-on-7 with their skill players, but yeah, they're going to have to play physical. And as Naja mentioned, A.J. Pigford for that South Gwinnett defense. He was dominant last year. He's only getting better. So definitely a game to watch. All right, Norcross at Mill Creek. Who's going to take this one? Yeah, who's going to take this one?
Mill Creek.
So Jordan likes Mill Creek.
I like Mill Creek.
I think it's hard to pick against them. Mill Creek did dominate last year, but I think the teams look drastically different. Norcross has such a luxury with the ability to put A.J. Watkins in at quarterback and honestly let him take off running the ball if they need to. If Norcross gets that passing game going, gets that Mill Creek defense having to go in like 5 DB sets, you put AJ at quarterback, he gets some space and he's going to break one off. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I was impressed for sure by the way that Norcross offense did not lose a step from last season. And I think it's because of that versatility. And then guys like Jamari stepping up. How will he play? I think he's going to be oozing with confidence against Mill Creek. And then somehow trying to stop Cam Robinson. That's going to be tough. And if you let him get going in the second half, he is a finisher. So you can't play from behind. You got to maintain possession. You got to keep aggressive offensively, because if Mill Creek's able to open up, or if they're able to get Cam Robinson going, they're going to pound you. They're going to draw your defense in, and then Shane Throgmartin's going to throw it downfield, and either Justin Content, Trajan Greco, a variety of other guys are going to come up and make a play. So tough matchup for Norcross for sure, but one to watch. All right, Oconee County, Clark Central. That's a massive rivalry game. Clark Central last year had to battle to get into the playoffs. Coach Perno was almost amused by how many games they just kind of blew with turnovers early in their season to put them in that position. But other than that, I mean, they played every single opponent extremely well. They ended up falling to Alatoona once they made the playoffs, but that'll be a great rivalry game. You got South Paulding at Carrollton. How's South Paulding going to look? They've replaced a lot. That was actually a close game last year. Stockbridge at Colquitt County. Stockbridge fell to Douglas County week 1 in a competitive game. Colquitt County dominated. How's that matchup going to shake out? West Forsyth at Marietta, two teams we saw in Corky Kell. I think it'll be interesting to see who takes that one. Westlake against Crisp County, a great 3A team. Westlake, how good are they? I've heard a lot of great things in terms of the level of D1 guys they have. They had a big win over North Cobb week 1. You got Westminster at Pace Academy. I'm picking Pace Academy in this one, even though Westminster had the big win last week and Pace Academy lost to Holy Innocents. I think playing Holy Innocents week 1, they're a triple option team that probably tested that Pace Academy defense, just not knowing where the ball is going. I think they're going to show up and have a big win. And then last one, Woodward Academy at McAllen, Tennessee. Definitely don't lose sight of Woodward on what they were doing. They had that new quarterback move in. What's his name? Woodward Academy's new quarterback.
What was the guy?
Yeah, so that was the big question mark. Yeah, Griffin Marshall. That's it. Sorry. Griffin Marshall came in to take over the reins and had a great performance week 1, getting into his playmakers, and that's going to be the key for them. So there's the top 30 right there. We'll have probably all those games recapped in our week 2 roundup. So that's it for now. Be sure to tune in tonight, 8 o'clock, live from Eddie S. Henderson Stadium for the 5th annual Great Atlanta Bash. We will see you there. Thanks for joining us. They need to have